It all started on a breezy Thursday morning. Emily was standing in the doorway, suitcase in hand, with that glowing smile she always wore when she was excited about something. "It's just a bachelorette trip," she said, tucking her hair behind her ear. "Natalie's getting married, and we're going to Miami for 2 days. Just cocktails, the beach, and celebrating her final days as a single woman. Nothing crazy." I laughed and kissed her goodbye, telling her to have fun. I didn't think much of it at the time. After all, Emily and I had been married for 5 years, and trust had never been an issue between us. I was confident in our relationship, or so I thought. When she returned on Sunday evening, I noticed something was off. At first, it was subtle. She was quieter than usual, her laughter seemed forced, and she avoided eye contact more than normal. "Did you have fun?" I asked as we sat on the couch later that night. She nodded quickly, brushing off the question. "Yeah, it was nice. Just the usual bachelorette stuff." Her phone buzzed on the coffee table, and she grabbed it quickly, turning it face down before I could see the screen. "Just Natalie," she said with a nervous laugh. I raised an eyebrow but let it slide. I didn't want to overthink it. I mean, why would I? Emily was my wife, the woman I loved and trusted. But as the days turned into weeks, her behavior grew stranger. She became distant, constantly scrolling through her phone late at night and rejecting my attempts at intimacy with excuses about being tired or stressed. I told myself she was probably just recovering from the trip or dealing with work stress. Still, a nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach told me something wasn't right. 2 weeks after her return, I finally decided to confront her. She was sitting on our bed, scrolling through her phone when I walked in. "Emily," I said, crossing my arms, "what's going on with you? You've been acting weird ever since Miami." Her head shot up, her eyes wide with surprise.
"What?"
"Nothing's going on," she said, too quickly. "Why would you even think that? You're distant. You avoid me. You've been glued to your phone every night," I said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Did something happen during the trip?" For a moment, her face paled, but she quickly forced a smile. "Of course not," she said, her voice wavering. "Ryan, you're being paranoid." I wanted to believe her. I really did. So, I pushed my doubts aside and told myself I was overthinking. But 2 days later, I found something that made it impossible to ignore the truth. I was getting ready to leave the house when I realized I couldn't find my car keys. Emily had borrowed my car earlier that morning because hers had been acting up, so I checked her purse, which was hanging by the coat rack. As I rummaged through it, I found the keys, and something else. A receipt from a tattoo studio in Miami. The date on the receipt matched the weekend of her bachelorette trip. My heart started racing. Emily didn't have any tattoos, or so I thought. When she got home that evening, I held up the receipt.
"Can
you explain this?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, though my heart was pounding in my chest. Emily froze, her eyes darting to the receipt, and then back to me. "Oh, that," she stammered. "Natalie dared me to get a tiny one. It's nothing really." "Where?" I asked, crossing my arms. "Where's the tattoo?" She hesitated for a moment before pulling the waistband of her jeans down slightly, revealing a small heart tattoo near her hip.
"See?"
"It's nothing," she said with a nervous laugh. I leaned in closer to look at it, and that's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Inside the heart was a tiny letter, an R. "What's this?" I asked, my voice tightening. "Why is there an R inside the heart?" Emily's face flushed. "It's for you," she said quickly. "R for Ryan." I thought it'd be a sweet gesture. Her explanation didn't sit right with me. Something about the way she avoided eye contact, the way her hands trembled slightly, it all felt wrong. But I nodded, pretending to believe her.
"Okay," I said.
"If you say so." That night, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. The tattoo, the distant behavior, the nervousness, it all pointed to something she wasn't telling me. I needed answers. The next day, I decided to call Natalie, hoping to get some clarity. "Hey, Natalie," I said, keeping my tone light. "Quick question. What's the deal with Emily getting a tattoo in Miami?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Oh," Yeah, Natalie said awkwardly. It was a crazy night. She was pretty drunk. You know how it is. I knew how it wasn't. Emily wasn't a heavy drinker, and she certainly wasn't the type to get a tattoo on a whim. My suspicions deepened. That evening, as Emily was in the shower, I noticed her phone buzzing on the coffee table. A message popped up on the screen. It was from someone named Megan, and the preview read, "I want to see you again." My heart pounded as I stared at the message. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. I picked up her phone and tried to unlock it. The passcode had changed, but I knew Emily well enough to guess it. On the second attempt, the phone unlocked. I opened the conversation with Megan, but to my surprise, it only contained one message. "I want to see you again." There was no context, no back and forth, just that single message. It felt deliberate, like something had been hidden. I copied the number from the contact and saved it on my phone. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet, but I couldn't let it go. The next day, I called the number. My heart was racing as it rang. After a few seconds, a man answered. "Hello." "Hi," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm looking for Megan." There was a pause. There's no Megan here, man. You've got the wrong number." I froze, the blood draining from my face. "Sorry for bothering you," I muttered before hanging up. My hands were shaking. This wasn't adding up. Who was this man, and why was Emily messaging him under the name Megan? That night, as Emily fell asleep on the couch, I took her phone again. This time, I searched for archived conversations, and I found it. The contact name Megan was a front. The messages were with a man named Richard. My breath caught in my throat as I read through the messages. They dated back to the weekend of the bachelorette trip. "Last night was amazing," Richard had written. "I can't stop thinking about you." Emily had replied, "Same. You made me feel alive again." My hands trembled as I scrolled further. The messages were intimate, emotional, and filled with details I wish I could unsee. Then I found the photo, a picture of the heart tattoo she'd sent to Richard with the caption, "It's for you." My chest tightened, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. The tattoo she had claimed was for me was actually for him. It wasn't just a fling, it was something deeper. The next morning, I scheduled an appointment with a lawyer. I wasn't going to let Emily take everything I'd worked for. The lawyer explained my options, and I left the office feeling more determined than ever. I wasn't just going to end our marriage. I was going to make sure she faced the consequences of her betrayal. That evening, as Emily walked through the front door, I was waiting for her. My phone was in my hand, the messages and photos pulled up on the screen. "We need to talk," I said, my voice cold. Her eyes widened when she saw the phone. "Ryan, what's going on?" Without saying a word, I handed her the phone. She stared at the screen, her face going pale as she scrolled through the evidence. "I can explain," she stammered, tears welling in her eyes. "Explain?" I said, my voice rising. "Explain how you lied to me? How you tattooed another man's initial on your body and told me it was for me?" "It was a mistake," she sobbed. "I was drunk and it didn't mean anything." "Didn't mean anything?" I yelled. "You sent him photos, Emily. You told him he made you feel alive. You gave him a part of you that was supposed to be mine." She broke down, collapsing onto the couch. "I'm sorry, Ryan. Please. I didn't mean to hurt you." Her tears didn't move me. I'd made up my mind. "I've already filed for divorce," I said, my voice cold and firm. "And I've sent everything to our family and friends. They all know who you really are." Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with panic. You what?" "I sent them everything," I repeated. "The photos, the messages, the truth. You don't get to play the victim here, Emily." She sobbed harder, begging me to reconsider. But it was too late. The damage was done, and there was no going back. Over the next few weeks, the fallout was brutal. Emily's family was horrified by her actions, and my friends rallied around me, offering their support. The divorce was finalized quickly, and I made sure she didn't get a dime. She left with nothing, just as she had left me with nothing but betrayal and heartbreak. Time passed, and the pain began to fade. I focused on rebuilding my life, finding strength in the truth, and the knowledge that I had taken control of my future. Emily had made her choices, and now she had to live with the consequences. As for me, I had learned a hard but valuable lesson. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it can never be the same. But I also learned that moving forward is possible, even after the deepest betrayal.